Every billionaire that I've met, every millionaire and entrepreneur, celebrity, athlete, and entertainer at the highest level, they all had two things in common. One, they made a shitload of mistakes. And two, they had a desire that they must be what they can be. Welcome to Entrepreneurs the Playbook. I'm David Meltzer, and I am so excited. They always say things happen very slowly, then all of a sudden. And for years, I've been circling around Mr. Wonderful, sharing many stages and many friends. But to have the chairman of O'Leary Ventures, of course, the most well-known investor on Shark Tank, and one who I align with the most, I'm very excited to share the playbook of success with the incredible Kevin O'Leary. Welcome to the playbook, Kevin.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, I want to get into O'Leary Ventures because one of the things that you are is honest, direct, very definite in your purpose, and that purpose seems to be aligned with exceptional value. You're always looking at this side of value, quantitative, not emotional. And you're very clear in distinguishing between emotional connection and true quantitative value. In O'Leary Ventures, you have such a wide spread or spectrum of different startups and companies that you invest in. What are some of the criteria that you're looking at to be able to make a wise investment in so many different industries, careers, jobs, products, services, and solutions?
It's a combination of issues that I deal with. One is how disruptive is the idea? If I can identify a large market and I see innovation, which in itself isn't enough because that's helpful. But I like that. Number two, remarkably, over decades now, the majority of my returns have come from companies run by women. And we're talking about startups here. So risk mitigation. I do more than just venture, but in my venture portfolio, um, I've realized that there's something about how women manage risk, generically. They're pretty good at it because it's return of capital in venture that matters, not return on capital. And so their returns have tended to be higher. And you can look, and they don't know each other, and they're in all 11 sectors of the economy. And then I look at the entrepreneur themselves. I don't have to like them. I have a lot of assholes working for me, but I have to respect them. And I have a lot of respect for the people I put money behind because they're doing something that is really difficult. Being an entrepreneur is not a destination, it's a journey, and it's extremely hard to do. And that it's that person, that individual, that drive. And I'm pretty good at assessing people now. I've been doing it a long time. I can size you up pretty quickly and know if you're a winner or a loser.
Well, I appreciate that. The fact that you're here may tend to think your opinion of me, so I appreciate that immensely. Um, I'm the chairman of Napoleon Hill Institute. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, Outwitting the Devil, had a great impact on my life. In the common denominator that I learned running Lee Steinberg, the sports agency, was that I found that every billionaire that I've met, every millionaire and entrepreneur, celebrity, athlete, and entertainer at the highest level, they all had two things in common. One, they made a shitload of mistakes. And two, they had a desire that they must be what they can be. And one of the things that impacted me most and still does in working with the Napoleon Hill Institute is this idea that you, to me, are an icon, an illustration of a definiteness of purpose, a desire that you must be what you can be. You lack no commitment when you make your decisions. How important is that when you're looking at the entrepreneur to have this definiteness of purpose, a desire that they must be what they can be?
Most of the people that I've met that have been successful are not in the pursuit of money ever. In fact, I would argue that if you're getting into the game of entrepreneurship and you want to start a company and you're just driven by money, you'll fail because it requires way more than that. You have to be so passionate about your mission and love it so much that you're willing to work 25 hours a day, 8 days a week. And because you're going to have to, because there's some guy in Mumbai or Hong Kong or in Abu Dhabi or Dubai that's kicking your ass, that wants to kick your ass. And it's a global competition, particularly on new ideas and all the new opportunities that AI brings and everything else that's out there. But The passionate ones wake up one day, and that certainly was what happened to me. And I just woke up really rich one day, and I said, "How'd that happen?" It didn't change the amount of time I spend working. And today I work harder than I ever have. I don't need more money. I need more time. And I really like, you know, what I do, and I enjoy the work. And, one of the big investments I've made lately is in myself and longevity. I'm investing heavily into all of these new technologies. And I've changed my lifestyle so much, and the food and everything, just the exercise. I don't do drugs. I don't smoke. My only sin is some wine. But I've, I feel better today than I did 30 years ago.
I'm right with you. Another area that I've been focusing in on is sleep, and been able to have a sleep coach and realize a third of my life is spent sleeping. And if I can utilize that to recover and also to access information while I sleep, it provides an exponentiality to that longevity, the quality of living a long time. Um, Media. It's interesting because you, unlike some of the other celebrity investors, you're a true investor and you've been thrown into the biggest media game in the world. Your community is engaged in the millions. But there's a difficulty as someone who's been in executive producing of shows and movies for years. Uh, there's a reality that our intentions aren't always portrayed in the media the way that we would like them to be. But our intentions of teaching people may be clear. They're foggy when they get distributed. You seem someone very clear on your intentions when you're helping. And I see this on Shark Tank. You're trying to help, even the ones that you're telling, hey, this business sucks and you better go back to the drawing board. There's no way I'll ever invest in this. You're helping them by telling them the truth instead of blowing smoke up their ass. But that doesn't always get portrayed the right way. How have you been able to rectify or accommodate the way we're portrayed in the media versus the intention that we may have had from things we say and do?
I always go back to what my mother taught me when I was a teenager. She said, if you always tell the truth, you'll never have to remember what you said. I've said this countless times because unfortunately, people don't want to hear the truth sometimes, but it's still the truth today, tomorrow, and a year from now. And, when you go on the record and you are basically telling the truth, it doesn't come back to haunt you the way that lying does. And I'd rather not do that, particularly when I'm telling a young entrepreneur, keep going. I'm not going to give you any money because your idea sucks and it's going to go to zero. It has no merit. But you just keep spending your parents' money. You mortgage your house. That's what Lori and Barbara do. And I disdain it. I can't stand it on Shark Tank. And that's when I say, wait a minute, none of you are going to give them any money. You know the idea sucks. It's going to zero. And you're telling them to keep on going? Keep on going to where? Hell? Like that just makes absolutely no sense. And so I'd rather just say, look, I'm sorry. This is the truth. And that's it. And I think in the long run, that's a good thing, actually, because I hate to see somebody waste their most valuable asset, time. They've got to dump that idea, take it behind the barn and shoot it and start something else. That's what entrepreneurs do. Everybody fails. I failed multiple times. You only need one success and you're financially free. You're free.
And in that financial freedom, and also in your book, I think 2011 or so, Cold Hard Truth to me was best representative of those lessons that your mom taught you and me as well. But you really broke it down into three areas because it helped me. I lost everything to over $100 million in 2008. And you broke it down into making money, growing money, and saving money, if I recall correctly in the book. And for me, I've never had a problem making money. I grew up with nothing, but somehow this was a genetic or an energetic inheritance. I was a millionaire 9 months out of law school. My first exit was 3.4 billion with Thomson Reuters. And that was not a problem, but I sure had a lot of problems saving my money. And to that end, are there any things over all these years that you think are some key tips that you can give to people about saving their money? Because I think in the end, in the exponentiality of the energy of money, that It's the most important part. You can make a lot less money, but save well and be very rich by the time you're my age.
That's true. The key to success on saving is to take 15% of your income when you're in your 20s and invest it in the index. Just a very basic portfolio, the S&P 500. You don't have to pick stocks. You don't even have to understand what a stock is. But over the period of your life, if you're taking that 15% every 2 weeks or every month, whatever it is, you make the average salary of 68 to $70,000. You'll end up a millionaire when you're 65 plus, 1.5 million maybe. And that's enough to live off in retirement. You won't have any debt. So it's kind of like learning how to not buy shit you don't need, because there's a lot of shit. Look in your closet. Look at all the crap you don't wear. I always use that example. Just look at all the crap you haven't put on in a year. Why don't you just throw it out? Because you don't need it and you wasted your money on it. Could have been in an index. And I formed a product years ago when I realized, the original iteration that was very sophisticated for trading stocks and bonds. And 110 million people in America don't know how to do that. And they don't have any savings. So I turned Bean stocks into the most simple product that you can download. And there's other apps too. You don't have to use Bean stocks. Use anything and just put something into an index, an ETF, and just start saving. You can watch it. It's your money. You can watch it on your phone. And I really endorse that now in a very big way. And if you don't do that, bad things can happen to you because money is a part of your life. It always has to be. You need something to live on, and you don't want to borrow debt, not on a credit card, not at 23%. That's a really bad outcome.
Yeah, and so many people do it, and more people are doing it today as things are accelerating to more challenging economic times. Balance is another thing that I look at. I try to look at things and empower young entrepreneurs with more of a prioritization perspective than a balance. I believe that there's times to have more family time. I believe there's times that we can have more focus on our education or on our finances. What's your philosophy when it comes to having work-life balance, as they say, in your 20s versus the 30s, 40s, or 50s?
Well, I don't buy that premise in your 20s or even 30s. If you're an entrepreneur, you're not going to have any work-life balance. You're just going to work. That's because your competitors are doing that. And the whole idea is that if you're successful, you will have all the balance you want and in any way you want. And that's what I still work all week. And I think I've been to 7 countries this week, including the UAE and Switzerland. And I'm on a plane all the time. But on the weekends, I always reserve that for my family to go anywhere they want. And that's my financial freedom. I'm happy to, where do you want to go? Thailand? You want to go to Phnom Penh? You want to go to Paris? Whatever. And that's quality time. And then everybody scatters after the 3 days are over, if it's 2 or 3 days. But that's how you do it. It's the idea that you can balance your life. I mean, look, maybe somebody, I don't invest in those kind of people, by the way. The people I invest in are working 25 hours a day. If they're telling me all they care about is balancing their life, I'm happy to let my competitor invest in them. That's who I want to compete with. I'm working with people that work their asses off and they are passionate about doing it. And they have whole teams that work that way. I go see some of my entrepreneurs at 2 in the morning when I go into Phoenix or New York or something. They're still awake. They're still working. I don't know, maybe they get 4 or 5 hours sleep, but that's what it takes to be successful. And once you get there, then you enjoy the balance. But you got to work your ass off to win.
And that's a given. In the idea of freedom, a lot of people become entrepreneurs because they would like to have freedom. And some think the freedom comes at the beginning stages when they leave their corporate jobs in order to facilitate some great innovation or idea that they have. Freedom's an interesting perspective in being an entrepreneur. And I laugh when we talk about freedom. Money is freedom, people say. And anyone that's dealt with celebrities, athletes, and entertainers may disagree fervently that money is not freedom, as many of the people that I have represented over the years have felt like slaves to those handcuffs. I would love for you to share your philosophy in perspective of freedom, and maybe even comment on if money can buy freedom.
Well, I'll start with a comment that I really believe. Money does not buy happiness. but it sure makes being miserable a lot easier.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. And that's kind of the way I live my life. I'm very, very, very fortunate. I've been very lucky and I've tried many different things and a few of them have really worked out. And so I get to pursue my passions like I never could. I mean, I could never afford Leica cameras when I was, young and I wanted to own one. And now I have more than I need. And I love watches. I love horology. I like to support young watchmakers all around the world. And I do that. It's a passion of mine. I love guitars and I like to play. I want to get better. Um, but I have many unique guitars because I was a shareholder in Fender, and now Gibson's making a Mr. Wonderful for my concert in July on Nantucket. Be there at the brewery on the 6th. Little shameless promotion there.
That's good.
I'll be rocking it out with the Tushy band like I do every summer. I always like to have a new guitar for that. But it's really I don't know, it's you're never you're never really free. I like that comment you made because you're always doing something. I mean, I can't speak to corporate life. I've never worked for somebody. I never will. I don't know what that's like. I can't even imagine it. I just don't know how to be a corporate guy. I tried it for a few months at Mattel. I got my ass whacked right away. I mean, it just, I didn't know how to work like that. So, but I'm very happy to do what I do and, support entrepreneurship and invest in things and be passionate about what I do. And I love it when someone says to me, oh, well, you can't be in the watch insurance business. That's too highly regulated. You'll never get any market share. I love to hear something like that. That just motivates me beyond what you can imagine. And 2 years later, I am in the watch insurance business in a highly regulated environment, in the most stringent regulations, with partnered with Chubb, and I'm launching globally. So yeah, that's what you need. You need someone to tell you can't do something. That's what you need. Then you go kick ass and prove to yourself you can. And then you do it again and again and again. You simply don't take no for an answer. And you shouldn't take no for an answer. Who knows what you can and can't do? Only you do. That's it.
Same philosophy in sports, obviously, as you look at all the GOATs, they all, from Michael Jordan to Tom Brady and so on, Wayne Gretzky, the greatest of all time of all sports, were told at one time or another, there's no way that they could do it. And I think it's a common denominator. I will tell you my favorite quote about money: money doesn't buy love or happiness, but it allows you to shop. And if you shop for the right things, if you shop for the right things for the right reasons, you're going to be happy. I was someone who was in alignment with you and your advice. When I was a multimillionaire in my 20s, I was buying shit I didn't need to impress people I didn't like. And now there's a formula for serious pain. Just to finish up as we're hitting the mark here, Kevin, I'm always looking for either great books or great quotes, something that I can use. Things are cliche, in my opinion, for a reason. That's because they're time tested and it's probably mean it's really good advice. And I was hoping maybe you could share one of your favorite books or a favorite quote of yours that can inspire all of us.
Well, I was really inspired by Keith Richards' biography. That really, really um, was phenomenal. And just the hardship that guy has gone through as an artist and a businessman, and the drugs and all the rest of that stuff, which he came out of alive. I mean, I'm amazed he is alive. He must be pickled by now, or maybe he's a vampire. But it's such a phenomenal book, and it's a long read, but it's really, really worth it. Very inspiring if you're in business. And the other documentary I just saw, actually, I saw it flying over from Dubai here to Miami. It's a 15, 16-hour flight. It's a documentary on becoming Led Zeppelin. And the reason it's not like any other rock doc, um, Jimmy Page and all of the members talking about their journey, they have a really different perspective on how that business worked. They were not a typical rock band. They were session musicians, and Jimmy Page really knew how the system worked. And it's the first time ever that he's disclosed how he did it. But when he cut his deal with Atlantic Records, he was one of the only bands in history that never had an executive near them when they were recording the album. They delivered the product. No one had any say in what they delivered. And obviously Atlantic took a big leap of faith in doing that, and look at the success they achieved. The message there is you have to control your product, control your destiny. Don't let others who don't understand your vision or your direction influence you in the wrong way. If you know where you're going, you just get there.
Thank you so much. This is
You
David
got
Meltzer and
it.
Kevin O'Leary on Entrepreneurs, the Playbook.